We know you're listening in on this radio.
It's not a question. Question of clear signal. It's not a question.
But that's how I felt that's the one I was looking for.
It's never a question of an engaging, intelligent discourse.
Democratize and beyond democracy. Mary, could your thoughts?
I disagree absolutely. Proceed.
Final stand.
In fact, it's never been a question about who stands out unique in this radio programming.
Raise the glass, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, this toast goes to Smooth 98.1.
And it can never be a question about who we are. We are Smooth 98.1.
All right, mics are up. Studio is very comfortable. Good morning. How are you? Today is Wednesday. It's the hump day. It's the day we start counting down to the weekend.
Yeah, the weekend officially starts on Friday.
I almost heard you say it's going to start this evening.
I thought about Thursday and I thought, nah. Let me be honest.
It make you sound unserious.
No, let me even be honest.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Good morning, Lagos. Thanks a lot for joining us here on Lagos Talks 91.
It's a part of Smooth Breakfast with Valentine Ohu.
And Ayo Mairo Ese.
And at this time, it's our usual practice for every other day to have a conversation around one of the most interesting subjects or conversation around the headlines. But today is Wednesday, and the usual for Wednesdays is for us to have a special conversation, right, around Lagos Talks 91. Today we'll be focusing on the issue of emotional intelligence for the professional sphere, so especially for the workplace, professional environments, cutting across customer service, cutting across body language, the means of communication, how we rate yourself, how you rate yourself in emotional intelligence. Do you even know what it means? We have a professional in the studio with us. Her name is Oyinkansola Alabi. She's called the Emotions Doctor. She's a superstar. And she has a very interesting story that when you get to find out much about her, you understand that she's gone through this process not just to help herself get out of situations or better manage situations, but to help you, to handle Lagos and to deal with circumstances as they come every single day. Recently, we had the incident of the fitness gym, manager, that went viral. We'll make reference to that conversation as well. But we have you to talk to us.
That's right. So please send us your message, or perhaps when you're listening to our conversation this morning, you might have a question. Kindly send to WhatsApp 0809-444-0981, on Twitter at Smooth981FM. You can use the hashtag Lagos Talks 981 and we will read out your message or question. As well as YouTube. We're streaming live on YouTube, so go to youtube.com/Smooth981FM Lagos. There's a live chat option for you to also send your message.
So let's start by, defining emotional intelligence for the layman.
Okay, so when we talk about emotional intelligence, I like to usually start by saying, for example, when you think about spiritual intelligence, you're saying that people are bowing to the flavor of God. When you're talking about financial intelligence, it means that people have the ability to save and invest. Physical intelligence, you're watching your inputs and outputs, maybe exercising and all of that. So emotional intelligence is being smart with feelings. The same way when you talk about financial intelligence, being smart with your money. So emotional intelligence also means that your emotions are intelligent. Tune into them. So in my field, we say that emotions are data, that emotions are also messengers. They come to deliver a message to you. So for example, the emotion called anger. Anger is an emotion that when you think about Lagos, you think about anger. Like to live in Lagos, you must be called. It's a calling.
Yes, it is.
Like Lagos will test every level of perseverance within you, every level of patience, every level of calmness, who you think you are, Lagos will introduce you to yourself. So the human being called anger is that one person that all of us make allusion to and we point fingers towards. So when anger shows up, anger, for example, shows up to deliver a message to you that something is in your way. So let's go back to the example you gave of the viral video of a gentleman who was experiencing an amygdala hijack. Amygdala hijack equals emotional hijack. In layman's terms, won't take by brain and won't get it. That's what it means. So something obviously triggered him. So there's usually a cause and an effect. The effect, it was what went viral, that all of us saw that a gentleman was vibrating, but there was a trigger which we did not record or we didn't see.
Which was not shown.
Yes. So at that point, we really cannot conclude. But obviously, based on the symptom, the message anger came to deliver to him was that something was in his way. And what was in his way? It was obvious that he felt disrespected. Now we don't know what had happened. From his reaction, he kept on saying, you cannot walk into my office to disrespect me. You can't walk into my office to do blah, blah, blah. So anger showed up to deliver a message that something is in your way. You feel violated. And that's the reason why you got upset. But instead of getting upset, what we're supposed to do is to switch from aggression to assertiveness, meaning now that you have received the message that, oh, I am angry. What we're supposed to do is, what made me angry? What did she say? And then correct the person. So an example is, if Ayo says to me, oh, Oyinkan, you are uses any particular word, and then I want to flip up. The next thing I'm supposed to do is, instead of flipping up as an emotional intelligent professional, I just say to her, oh, I didn't like that. Please don't address me that way, or I would prefer to be addressed respectfully. So instead of saying, don't ever talk to me like that again, are we mates? Who do you think do you know who I am? Yes. So at that point, anger has delivered the message. You have tuned into your emotions, and then you have given her feedback. So instead of being aggressive, you are assertive. So anger on its own is not a problem. In fact, run away from anybody who doesn't get upset. It is, however, what you do with the information and the message anger is delivering to you.
That's where the intelligence comes in.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And when you speak in such measured tones. You speak in such a way that you're speaking as an ambassador of what you do, emotional intelligence. Is this, permit me to use the word art.
Okay.
The art of managing your emotions. Is it learned? Were you born with it? Can people, for someone to say, well, that's the way I was born, have anger issues, and I just speak my mind the way I see it or I hear things. Is it something that can be learned? Is it something that you can discipline yourself to achieving?
Okay, emotional intelligence is not a gift of nature. Emotional intelligence is what you nurture. So I wasn't born emotionally intelligent. I deliberately, and I am still on that journey of nurturing and sustainability. My story actually is that I used to be a nuisance. Now I am a retired nuisance. Like I've graduated. What do you expect from someone who lived in Mushin for 18 years? In Mushin, we don't say good morning when you're greeting. We all have slangs.
Yes.
Don't let me say one.
Why not? It's not radio friendly?
No.
Okay. Mushy and emotion got
somehow. So of course it's not the good morning and the good afternoon, all of those things. So when you're talking about violence, anger, and all of that, yes, it was at that hinterland. And then the reason why I am so passionate about this is because, especially for people who say, oh, I like to give a piece of my mind, that's who I am, that's this, I can't change. That's not the truth. Scientifically, you can reprogram your brain. And then when you do something called an internal audit and you see that a particular skill or a particular habit or style is not delivering value anymore, the same way you update the apps on your phone, update the apps in your life. Something usually happens career-wise and corporately where we are so much in a hurry to climb or ascend the career ladder, but we forget that when you are going through career development, you should engage personal development. Because no matter how high you go, you will take yourself with you.
That's right.
You will take yourself into marriage,
Your bad behavior.
into the office. In fact, emotions drive people, people drive performance. So emotions drive your marriage. Every conflict is a conflict with a human being. I've never seen somebody having issues with a chicken, like you are fighting. Or you can fight with a dog, but that's even to the extreme.
Not even at that level.
Yes.
It's not on the same level. It's
Yes,
probably that
but
you're angry
every
at
conflict you've ever had in life is with a human being, and it will be with a human being. So when are we going to inculcate that skill, that personal relationship? In fact, and we're talking about intrapersonal, the relationship you have with yourself. If you're unhappy with yourself, you cannot dispense joy.
Dropping nuggets right there.
Because
Catching them.
she said something really vital that sometimes we skim over in dealing with life.
Yes.
Every next level of your life requires a different you.
Yes.
So you need to improve yourself, which is what is very vital from that statement you made about updating our lives just the way we update our phones or the apps on our phones. Coming from wishing, now you're
leave my past now.
Now you're in VI. You've dealt with traffic, you've dealt with Lagos in every form, shape. How do you see from experience, I mean, the progression of, if there's any progression, with Nigeria customer service? It is something.
That's a trigger.
I know.
I'm telling you.
I know somebody. I have somebody in my life who takes a very passionate. She's very, very particular about Nigerian customer service. I mean, she could go out of her way. She can forget everything that she planned to do in the first place and just go after addressing that situation, over the counter. Forget that she's probably there to buy something. I want to see your manager. At that point, now it goes from just purchasing an item to delivering a lecture.
Yes.
How do you deal?
Okay, the truth about customer service is, like I said before, all of us are human beings, and then you employ human beings as employees or associates in your company. When a human being is troubled, how will they deliver an experience? That's what we usually think. We think that people have the skill to compartmentalize, so they leave the supposed unhealthy part of them, and when they show up at work, they show up perfect. They can script it for a while, but pressure has a way of placing a demand on your existence. Pressure will squeeze you out. So one day, you will just find out that this particular person is not really who you wanted to employ or whatever it is. So when you say customer service, put all of us together. All the people rendering services. And then you can only give an experience if your life is an experience. So until you are at peace with yourself, which is internal alignment. So let me give you a good example. Someone wakes up at 4 o'clock or whatever, gets out by 5:30, gets to the office by 6, already tired. They haven't even started working. Already tired, and then by 8 o'clock, a client walks in and all of that. A human being who is already tired, who is not performing properly, who is even attempting to take one form of coffee or whatever at the same time, and then by 9 o'clock, it's already done. And then we're blaming this person. So just look at how many hours we spend, for example, in Lagos. It's enough to drain anybody out. Like this morning, like I was here 2 hours before. I just could not convince myself to sleep longer. Usually I even jog in the morning. I couldn't try it this morning. I said before power changes hands on mainland preaching. Like 2 hours before ahead. Now try and imagine if I was doing this every day. What level of optimal performance are you expecting? So even if you can't see it, internally I'm troubled. This is not the kind of life I want. So what we can do is we cannot separate the environment from performance.
All right, very, very good point you've mentioned there. We need to go on a break now, but when we come back, I'd love for us to also touch on solutions, because we can't help this environment. We are born in Lagos, we are born in Lagos.
Yes.
There's traffic, but yet we still have to achieve optimal performance at our workplaces. It would be great to see from your perspective how we can handle that. So that despite external factors, we're still performing
stable in an unstable environment.
That's the word. Thank you so much.
Our special guest is Oyinkansola Alabi. She's the emotions doctor. Check us out on Twitter at Smith981FM. Use the hashtag Lagos Talks 981. The conversation around today's special is emotional intelligence for the professional sphere.
Boy, and this is your breakfast.
Nice one. Well done. This is your bread and butter. Like you are chewing it like food.
Let me tell you something about Providence Bank. You see, when we set out to do banking, we didn't just want to do the usual. We wanted to do different. From our branding to our art.
Oh, lovely. You have a great, what's it called? Social media team.
Every touch point.
Oh, me?
Yeah, that's
okay. It must be my office.
And that's why you won't
fantastic.
It must be my associates. Okay.
lounge for your comfort
Make
in
it
every
trend.
our business location. We even have dedicated lifestyle concierge to assist you on your journey. That is how we define future forward banking.
But what do you think about the gentleman, the new guy?
It was triggered.
Yeah, I
It was
just
very
felt
obvious.
it could have been anybody.
It was very obvious. He looked like a animal.
No, but I've met people like that too, that are very mean. And so either one or two things, my opinion is that either he was triggered, like you mentioned, or his ego was affected.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it was both of them actually.
I've heard about the guy himself. Talk about his attitude and stuff.
Yeah, because there's something that wants
Yes,
to.
aggressive. It's kind of.
So life
However,
wanted to launch him.
it was kind of rather obvious that the lady.
Yeah, she presented herself.
No,
He was a bait.
She psychologically messed with that guy.
Oh yeah, she baited
really
him and
did.
it got
See
him.
how she went really calm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that was just very
Yeah.
ridiculous. She was so calm.
And
And
so
I'm
of course
like,
that
no.
would piss you off the.
This is how
mark, yes.
they kill women or married women. Like you just keep baiting people.
Yes.
Wow, fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, and it's even in BR1.
Well done, Val.
Well done, Ayo.
I'm reading your guest this morning. I can actually relate with her and the topic. She sounds so real.
Yep.
I'm also a refined Mushin man. You may ask what part of
They
Mushin
should leave me.
told her. I'll read
She
this
said-
one.
Oh, I don't know the question said want to get it. She said it in English first.
Amidala Haida. What get it?
I'm telling you.
Come on, get him.
Even
What
I
he
think
get
Valentine
it?
and I respond into silence.
And then we like laughing.
What get it? No, Gabriel.
I can imagine all you guys are thinking. Wait,
I'll tell you.
When my mom says that she's liking me.
Yeah, she's listening, yeah.
What he get it? No. That's how I felt for the gym guy when he what a Gabriel boy.
no, he was fighting.
No, he was
That
quite
anger was
upset.
really-
Yeah, but you will know that he has challenges with anger.
Yes.
Yeah, and they would have been
Easy to
warning
bait
him. No, they would have been warning him before that public display. Yes, life has a way of warning you in secret until it launches you to destruction. Yes, that's what has happened to him. Because some people actually sent me some emails he sent to them before that were thinkers actually,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
refused to just comment online.
No,
I just
I've
felt-
heard about it.
Yeah,
I've heard about his attitude.
I'm sure he should learn if he
No,
has sense.
after that
Mm.
incident as well, he sent a note to apologize.
Oh,
to all
okay.
his fans.
Oh, okay. So I think he should learn now.
After that
Mm.
incident as well, he sent a note to apologize
Oh,
to all
okay.
his fans.
Oh, okay. So I think he should learn now. He must receive sense.
Is he the owner of the company?
Yeah.
So
Oh, he
can't
couldn't
really
have been
be
a staff.
demanded, yes.
Nah, he couldn't have. That was too much boldness for his staff. And he's so cute.
He is.
Yeah.
It's cute guys like that used to slap.
What people used to talk about
You just subbed Valentine.
Ah!
That's what you did.
What's that?
I said that. She was like, oh, and it's really cute. I was not like, yeah, it's cute guys like that used to slap their babes into. Then I said, I subbed you. I'm like, she's a real compliment.
She
Yes,
thinks
yes.
that you're cute.
No, I know. No, I don't think he is cute. So, but she not said something.
this thing is bad.
That's why I was wondering that. Why are you sobbing, Val?
Sorry, but she said that she wasn't think you're cute. Though.
No, I said
I
no.
don't think
I don't understand.
he's
What about
cute.
Bella?
Oh, is that what
No,
you
I said I
said?
don't think he's cute. He is cute.
Oh, I think he's
Ayo. Valentine.
Thank you. I mean, this for you. Let's go back.
But don't sign in with that thing. Don't say
You
this is what? You go and sign in with me to get here. He said, you know me too well. So I said, don't sign. It's our YouTube family that are enjoying the most.
This is back.
Okay.
Studio. That's your up.
Therapy by India and Re on a Wednesday morning here, Lagos Talks 91 on Smooth 98.1. We're talking emotions, particularly emotional intelligence for the professional space. I'm Ayo Mairo Ese.
And I am Valentine Ohu.
And joining us to have this conversation, we have the emotions doctor herself, aka Oyinkansola Alabi.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the show. We've had such a great conversation before the break, breaking it down, first of all, even looking at what emotional intelligence is, and then also how living in Lagos has an effect on our emotions, and how the promise for this next segment is how we can manage our emotions despite external factors. But before we proceed, we have some comments on WhatsApp I'd like to share. Some of them have come in as questions, others are just our observations. But don't forget, if you'd like to send in your comments or questions, kindly send to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. On Twitter, it's at Smooth981FM using the hashtag Lagos Talks 981.
All right, we have on YouTube as well. We're streaming live, so you can watch us live. Please subscribe and leave a message there. But someone from traffic says, I get your point, but what if the person becomes persistent in triggering you off?
So going back to your anger analogy, that the person, anger has sent you a message, and you should be assertive instead of being angry. So Bosun is asking, but just like the case you mentioned.
Okay, so let me give you an example. There was a day I was rushing to Ilupeju for a meeting, and then my PA was driving. I was at the back. All of a sudden, I just saw a Prado Jeep really close to me, and in a twinkle of an eye, the guy hit us. Now, Prado Jeeps, they usually have metals in front. So he didn't just hit, he destroyed my bumper. And then it was the wrong time. So I stepped out and then said to my PA, pick a cab behind, head on to the meeting, and then I'll meet you there. And then this guy who hit me from behind went forward to park, and then he didn't step out. So because of what I do, I tuned into my emotions, and I knew that the moment he didn't step out, it was a sign for me, an emotional sign that something was not going to be right. Then I have to remind myself that, you cannot fight here on Ikorodu Road Expressway. Like,
don't show yourself.
The emotion and the emotions doctor were conflicting at the same time. Emotion was sending me messages
on the left side
you can't change it. Yeah. Emotions doctor was there saying, no, all things are passed away. Yeah, now it's not there. And all those things.
Yes.
So after like 20-30 seconds, he stepped out, and then he went to check the front of his car. Of course, that was another emotional signal that something was like, how do you hit somebody you're checking your car?
And then him going to park in front of you.
Yes, it was a script.
A mischievous.
So that it would look like I hit him, not him hitting me. Right. So I already understood whatever he was doing. So finally, I was walking towards him, and as I was walking towards him, he just stood where he was, like he was looking at me, and I could see him lift me up with his eyes. When somebody is taller than you and it's like praise and worship, they just lift you up. So I could practically see the lifting going, and I knew that it was going to be terrible. Yes. In fact, I knew when he dropped me, bang, like I felt it. And I told myself that, I'll get out here sane. It's going to be a miracle. And then I looked at him and I said, good afternoon, sir. And then he looked at me. He didn't respond immediately. And as he looked at me, I was already waiting. But whatever he said, I didn't see it coming. I was waiting, and then after about 20 seconds, he said, go and call your husband. I don't talk to women.
That's
one chance.
That's the part you hit your left side of your head.
I actually felt it at the left hand side, like my shoulder. The thing entered. When he bounced, it was my motion he bounced at. And I knew. And then I deployed two techniques there. Number one, I didn't respond to him immediately. the first thing I did was something, maybe I'll talk about it later on, which is called Name It to Tame It. So the moment that happened, I said to myself, wow, this thing entered. So I left where he was. I just moved a little far away from him, which is deploying something else, which is interruption technique. Like, leave where the pain is coming from. Leave the trigger alone, at least for a while. Don't respond immediately. Take your 6 seconds pause. So those were all the things. So in about 2 minutes, I turned back and I said, my husband is not here, so we're going to have this conversation. Of course, he didn't see that coming. He thought I was going to scatter it.
Of course.
In scattering it, he would drive off.
Yeah.
So after about 30 minutes, I then had to call my mechanic to assess it and all of that. He paid for the car. And when we finished, he came to my side and said, can I have your card? Obviously, I think he was expecting. He must have been using that strategy for a while. Of course, bus drivers have hit me before. Those ones are another level. They make a way where there seems to be no way. The one that hit me was at Civic Center, just right in front of traffic lights. I was there as a child of God. The guy was just meandering. The next thing, I know it was 2 weeks after I just bought my car.
Wow.
So you can't even understand.
That was
like I didn't even remove the nylon.
They were washing it for you.
When you buy a car and the nylon is still on the seat. I wanted all my enemies to even know. I just bought it.
That's the stage where you say, don't touch my car.
I'll tell you. And all of a sudden, somebody removed my front bumper. I just saw it behind his car. Like 2 weeks after. You can't understand. I was in severe pains. And I stepped out of the car and I prostrated. And I almost wanted to kill him there. Like, no way. This is not going to work. And I said to him in Yoruba, but the translation is one like, just stand up. Let's talk. This processing is not going to work.
Lying down something.
But what I did at the end of the day was he followed me to my mechanic's shop and then we fixed the car. He didn't pay, but I wasted his time. So that was me dealing with the Nigerian side that I will waste time.
But that's a payment in a sense.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, because of course they fixed it, everything. We finished around 5-6 p.m. at Ilukojo. The next thing the guy said, I should help him find transport. And I found transport. Honestly, I had to give him. But why did I say all of that? Because of a particular experience I've had before in Lagos, where a particular lady hit a man's car. And then she stepped out, the man stepped out, and the man jacked her by the neck. You know how you hold somebody's shirt. Of course, he was very upset, legitimately upset. That what is wrong with you? You can see it's early in the morning and all of that. And then people gathered and they were talking to him. Don't hold her like that. She's a woman and all of that. Interestingly, he listened and then he left her alone. But in leaving her alone, he pushed her. You know how you just angrily, show somebody out. And she tripped because she was wearing heels. In less than 5 minutes, she died because I knew about the case. It's a real life story in Lagos here. So I usually say something, and you must have heard there was a particular guy also who chased a bus driver at Maryland Onegbungo years ago. Both of us were actually classmates at a particular school, so I know the guy. And he was chasing a bus driver who had hit him early in the morning. And interestingly, he caught up with the boss. He hung like a conductor and all, but he and the conductor was negotiating. And the conductor, of course, who is on the side of the boss at Maryland, he actually made the news at a point. Yeah. And then he pushed the guy out. Another car cleared him. A 35-year-old guy. So I'm telling you true life story. So the question is, when you look at the damage done, if they had told you that if they had told him that if you chased this car, it was going to cost you your life, or would you just beat this thing for 20K? I'm sure it's very difficult because all of us encountered this kind of thing in Lagos before. You don't have to hit somebody, or they will look for you, and they will just do that.
And at that time, your mind is not being rational.
Oh, yes. At that time, you experience an emotional flood. So part of the solutions I will give this morning is all of us know who we are. So it's not just who you are, who you are in life. If you know that you have anger issues, it is not bad, but please deal with it. Because if you don't, it would expose you. It would expose you as a in marriage, it would expose you in parenting. Sometimes when we beat kids, we're actually not beating kids, we're beating ourselves. Yes. Because I've seen parents beat their kids before and they take a deep sigh of relief. Like, the irony is that that's how they were parented. So they're trying to get back and do a lot of things all together. So all of us, we all know ourselves. So whatever you are going through, somebody has been there before. And there's something I usually say, there's a difference between the story of your life and your life story. The story of your life is a story that you couldn't control. Who gave birth to you, where you were giving birth to, blah, blah, blah. All the Nigerian stories all of us have. Yes. But your life story is the story you can control and rewrite yourself. Until you get into your life story, you are not existing.
It hasn't been published yet. It's
Yes.
just scripting it. Very interesting. Oyinkansola Alabi, thank you so much. You've been so awesome. Keep your messages coming in because we would answer questions after this break. The number for WhatsApp messages is 0809 444 0981. This is the Lagos Talks 981 special on emotional intelligence for professional sphere.
Thank you. Indeed.
Fantastic.
I have there's a question on WhatsApp.
Okay.
I don't think, as in self-suspected, we cannot finish this topic.
No.
Yeah. So we can talk about how CEOs treat their staff and maybe how staff also treat their CEOs.
So after this message.
After this message, there's a question and we'll go straight in there.
We wanted to make you feel special, so we put lifestyle into banking. At Providence Bank, we know you don't like queues, and that's why you won't be in any here. Instead, we created a
I wasn't going to declare, I was just shocking. That brings.
I know all this place.
Oh my
The guy was my classmate at Lagos Business School. He was the quietest in class. Like I saw his dead body. He was putting on a blue shirt. He was 35. But
He was chasing them, they pushed him or what?
yeah, he caught up with the car, then he hung. You know when you're trying to drag the conductor at the park because they disappeared. And then he just pushed him out. Another bus cleared him away.
And did the boss run away?
Before. Eva is born again. Where did the bus run? Before, what would you do with dead body? Where do you want to start from? That one was like if it's one. I was actually heading for a therapy session. I just saw bodies there. By the time I came out, it was me and a medical doctor friend. They just gave us a story. It was my medical doctor friend that actually certified her dead.
Well, go back. Studio. Check your time. It's 9:33, 27 minutes before 10 o'clock, which approximately leaves us with just 13 minutes or so, 15 minutes actually to the end of the conversation. But we have Oyinkansola Alabi here, the Emotions Doctor. You can check us out on Twitter at Split981FM. Use that hashtag Lagos Talks 981 on YouTube. We're streaming live so you can watch the conversation and be part of it. Send messages to WhatsApp
0809 444 0981. I need to manage my own emotions at the moment from what I'm listening to. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. All right, let's go on to WhatsApp. Lola has a question for you, Oyinko. I'd like to ask a question. I'm naturally assertive and never keep anything on my mind. I say as it is doing. Over time, I've been introspective enough to know it's a strength, and I honestly don't want to be otherwise. Bearing in mind, however, that more reticent individuals bear the brunt of my assertion. Now, when I'm angry, I totally keep quiet, like hyper mute, so much that the subject feels angry that I ignore them. Then it's now like I'm proud. Is that being emotionally intelligent on my part now?
Okay, so when you are upset, what I hear you say is that when you're upset, you are quiet. What I think is happening at that point is emotional suppression, not emotional intelligence. Because I think that if somebody else triggers you again, then you would give them press down, shaking together, which is transferred aggression. So I think that when you're upset, the skill you need to understand is how you communicate the message, how to communicate the message and not the pain. So when you are assertive, you deal with issues, you don't deal with people. You attack issues, not people. For example, Nigerians need to understand how to attack issues. That's the reason why we drag each other online. The moment I do not agree with what you are saying, you fight me. And whether you like it or not, I have a right to have a differing opinion. Your mind is your mind. It's not a conference mind. We don't operate the same mind. So we need to understand how to attack issues, which I think is what you need to do. So if you're also saying that, oh, you clear your mind or you say a piece of your mind, quite truthfully, if all of us continue like that, what is going to happen is that we're going to destroy ourselves. Because the reason why the world is still preserved is because some of us are engaging what I call mental edit. The ability to edit what you are thinking before you say it. If you are giving a piece of your mind every time, you will be mindless at points because you will give everything out. And the question I usually ask also is, you should test your words as if they are yours. This thing you're about to dish out, if somebody says to you in this particular way, how would you feel? And that is tuning into your emotions. So no matter how upset you are, remind yourself that you can deliver the message in a kind way, because that's why you will hear correct in love. If you cannot correct in love, don't bother correcting. There's a way to correct, not just correct. So how you also deliver a message is as important as the message you are delivering, which is your style of delivery is as important as the content of delivery. So I like the fact that you are blunt, but being blunt is not an excuse to be rude. We must not misunderstand that. Being blunt is not an excuse to be rude. You can be blunt and be kind.
Yes.
That's a quotable quote.
Yes, you can be blunt and be empathetic. And that's why we need to engage empathy in our conversations at every point in time.
Thank you. Now, I want to relate that with in the workplace.
Okay.
Feedback.
Yes.
Particularly from the boss with the subordinate. You know, yes, we think emotional intelligence sometimes in Nigeria should be for people who are subordinates. So CEOs, MDs, bosses don't think there's a need for them to be emotionally intelligent. You can call, I mean, I've heard horrendous stories of how some bosses treat their staff.
Yes.
I'm sure that in the course of your work, you've had to deal with some of these issues, both from the perspective of the boss and the staff. How can you, as a boss, be more emotionally intelligent and give your staff feedback without looking weak? You know, some of them are afraid of that, or looking as if you are not a strong boss, yet still being able to pass your message, like you mentioned, with kindness.
Okay, one thing I have observed studying 25,000 employers in the country is that employers who sound mean are actually unhappy with themselves. Actually unhappy with themselves. And I'll give you an example. It is not just at the workplace that they are mean. Try and find out about their lives and their relationships with everybody around them. You would see that how they do one thing is almost how they do everything. So that's, first of all, identifying that you may not be their trigger. Somebody in an unhappy marriage, how would they show up at work? Really loving and kind. They can't compartmentalize the pain. And then they say that, oh, women are very invested in their relationships. So how can we also give feedback without destroying people? Because there's a difference between correction and condemnation.
Yes.
The fact that you are paying somebody money does not mean you should destroy them.
Thank you.
Money, because I have also seen that employers are one of the reasons why some people have low self-esteem. We keep entrenching the they are not good enough narrative because of 80,000, 100,000, 150,000. I agree that we are all paying money. But if somebody does something, there are options there: correct them, warn them, fire them. But in all of this, people preservation must be key. Because I see that because we're paying people money, we just think we have paid them for life and we destroy them. And then people leave your offices feeling worse than they gotten just because you paid them salaries.
And they expect to come back the next
Yes, but I also must not forget the fact that some people are also not as productive as they're supposed to be at work. So if you are replacing excellence with grace, you are not normal. Instead of, if you are replacing excellence with grace, you are not normal. You are supposed to work. Yes, because employees must all know, when employers pay you, they pay you for 9 to 5. You are not there to be on social media. You are on the payroll to solve a problem. So solve that problem and go home. So we must balance it, because I have met some spirits also at work who are not working and are triggering employers. So both parties must be properly represented. If you are on a payroll, deliver value. And if you do not like your work, then simply state it or leave. But you cannot be there and be frustrating your CEO. That's totally, in fact, that's witchcraft.
Thank you so much. So many things. We have comments on YouTube, and then Daniel Akintoye says, well, I've learned a lot today. It's enough to write a book. Please, are you on YouTube? We'll share information before we finish the program. I need to learn more. We need to be sane in this Lagos before we start breaking people's heads.
And Charles Chidozie says, I don't talk to women. I felt some cricket in the studio. If you're watching us on YouTube, well, you have a chance to see this video at any time for as long as it exists. But tune in and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/smooth91FM Lagos. We'll be back to continue this conversation. Our special guest is Oyinkansola Alabi. She's the emotion doctor.
I am feeling
Like I'm having goosebumps.
Emotions that.
I'm having goosebumps from
Oh
this
man,
conversation.
with that professional part, she's nailing it.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I'm having
On the
goosebumps.
head.
Like people are asking. So before you go, we need to have enough time. People are asking for if you're reading a book, Instagram
okay.
handle,
Okay.
Just to
YouTube
connect
page.
after the
Yeah,
show.
I want to
Okay,
connect with
very
you
well.
after the show.
Go to the emotion city.
Honestly, yeah, I'm going to follow. I don't think I'm following you yet. My lord, I'm just
I'm a
looking
silent
like.
follower.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I think I'm following.
I follow everyone. I'm one of those followers that like to be in the shadows.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done.
Because we
So
must balance
much.
it. There are some Malians at work.
Oh,
I don't get it.
no.
I almost wanted to mention
No.
Malians. There are some Malians at work.
Ah, please.
You say you should not. People are nowhere. Telling you.
Bad man.
Oh, I think yes. I started following you. I didn't get posted something about you or something.
Yes,
and
we
then I went to
invited
your
her for the
page.
cross. Yeah.
Yes, and then I started following you after that. Yes.
I know Mario.
Oh, really?
Yes, I met him through Nathaniel.
Okay.
Nathaniel Bati.
Yeah.
Yes, Nathaniel is my friend.
All
So I
right.
met him a while ago.
Okay.
Yes. So I think when he got married, that's
Yeah.
when I started following you. And then I see that you compare and all of that.
Yeah,
and that you
sure.
made a lot of money in December.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what?
Like I saw her, like I was keeping tabs.
Exactly. She had
I'm like,
so many events. Like,
did she sort you out?
That's it. See, you're very emotionally intelligent. You could have read my
Bless
mind.
him.
No commission.
No, food is small. I have some
Very well,
loops
please.
shoes that he would like. I don't sell, but he can buy online.
Yeah,
Buy him loops now.
Emotionally intelligent. Why wouldn't you like that one?
Before.
Bless him with
Ask
loops
him how
now.
much money he's making. He can buy me.
Are you
10
serious?
loops.
I know I hear Valentine, but he doesn't
Streamline
look like.
media, loose media.
Oh.
He's
So it's acting like he has not made it.
not asking him.
I'm
He has
growing.
made it
I'm getting there.
in life. So don't even talk like
Are you
that.
serious?
This is
Blown.
That's those.
I
Yeah,
swear.
but-
I don't.
Before you talk, Valentine, let me expose you. And
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
saying, you guys follow him on Streamline Media ND,
Okay.
right? Streamline Media ND. Yeah.
I'm holding fast there. The conversation is very, very interesting. This morning we're more emotionally intelligent than the time we started, to be honest.
Honestly.
We're talking about that. We have our special guest, emotions doctor herself, Oyinkansola Alabi. She's here talking about. We started by explaining. She started by explaining to us, or rather, just breaking it down. Emotional intelligence as being smart with your feelings. You have to apply intelligence to every conversation and just take time to, chill a bit. Now, when you're analyzing before the break, I just thought about it like a bowl of water, or say a keg of fuel, petrol. You're trying to pour a petrol in, or maybe the petrol is in the. You're trying to pour it in the tank, and you don't have a funnel. Even if you do, you allow it settle if it's
Yes.
stirred
Yes.
before you pour it. So imagine your emotions being that the content, liquid content. When it's rippled by
yes.
people, the external factors, you have to allow it calm down. We have messages to go through.
I'll take two questions. The questions are coming as expected. But very quickly, we have this one from Yemisi Nojuelegba, who says, there's a first part, but I'll skip that. He says, he asks, first of all, what do you do when you face stubborn people who know that you detest certain attitudes and they still keep on rubbing their baggage on you? The next, what is the best practical technique to apply when you're busy rotating on the same spot without making positive progress? In other words, how do you convert statics to dynamics?
Okay.
So I want to give you all the questions because our time is about to be over. Erika from Amowo says, what about those of us that have horrible bosses that won't let you drink water and drop cup? Imagine trying to deal with stressful clients at the same time trying to satisfy your bosses. I've also received verbal abuse from clients because of many of them feel we are subject to them since they are the ones paying us. Someone threw cash at me in a distasteful manner just because he disagreed with the charge I gave him. What do you also do if you feel the person is about to get physical? So this is the workplace, and then let me see talks about.
Okay, so let me see. This question was. Please remind me again.
So he's asking you about the first thing is someone who's stubborn knows you and he keeps rubbing a particular attitude and he keeps doing it to you.
Okay, so when you say somebody is stubborn, the truth about it is that if people knew better, they would do better. That's number one. Number two is you must also acknowledge the fact that it took them a while to become stubborn. So imagine you trying to correct a 30-year-old. They obviously won't change immediately. It may take a long time because the habit is now a program and they are on autopilot. So they are not used to functioning normally, the same way some Nigerians are not used to functioning normally.
True.
You know, now we think this is normal, but it's not normal. Pressing on like toy is not normal. You know, but it has looked, it's not normal and all of those things. So I think one thing we all need to acknowledge is empathy. Yes, except they're now doing it deliberately. At that point, it becomes an attack. But I'm not sure that a good number of people are doing this deliberately. So I think sometimes we should correct them in love and hope that they will change. I'm also concerned about how we correct. Because sometimes instead of correcting, we insult, we condemn, and then it makes them get on the defensive. And by the time they're on the defensive, they vow that they will never do what you want them to do. And then that's the first part. So let's look at an abusive boss and then abusive clients and all of those things. I'm not sure you are their challenge or their problem. Anybody who is abusive is naturally rude. And when people are rude, you are not just the only trigger. That is the program they have grown up to appreciate and deploy at every point in time. And let me tell you something about rude people. Rude people are running away from something called low self-esteem. They don't feel good enough, so they will try and oppress you. They are deploying a style called oppression because there's something within them that is making them feel like if you really knew who they really were, you may not respect them, like an imposter syndrome. So they would enforce it. They will make it look like they are in charge, they are the god, and they become oppressive. At that point, that's why you need to understand what emotional intelligence is, so that when people are doing and manifesting, you can know the flavor of manifestation they are operating per time. Okay, this one is system 1, you are okay. System 2, you know, you can just understand the emotional cues and your life is easier. Because you are also a trigger to somebody else. Please don't forget. Because there are people also who think that your own is also too much. So we also need to balance it. But I do not in any way appreciate when people are abusive. And if you ever get on that lane, please, if you're an employer and you ever get there, please apologize. I remember a particular day when one of my associates, who is also called a staff, said that I said a particular thing to her. And when she mentioned it to me, she was in tears. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I am so sorry. I have no excuse. I shouldn't have said that. And I am really, really sorry. And, you know, she requested to hug me because maybe, you know, she didn't know. But I took responsibility, even though I was legitimately upset, even though we fired her at the end of the day, but I was sorry. Do you understand?
Which is very important.
Yes.
Which even buttresses what you said earlier. Keep the person intact.
Yes.
Keep the emotions intact.
Yes.
Respect them, but
I didn't have to attack her.
Yes.
In dealing with the issue, she was not meeting up to her ROI and all of those things. And then we had this conversation over 12 times, correcting, training, and all of that. And it just looked like she was not the appropriate fit. And that was fine. But me now saying something to get her to cry was very unnecessary. And I took responsibility for that and totally apologized. And we served her a sack letter. But I apologized in good faith, saying I should not have said that. I have no excuse for it. But this is the reason why this is happening. And you also know. You know, so those are separating the facts. So please, employers, please, I know that Nigeria is not as smooth as we want it to be, and we're under so much pressure, every level of economic pressure. And I know, and then sometimes some of us have personal pressures, and that's why getting trainings on emotional intelligence is very, very appropriate.
Talking about trainings and emotional intelligence, how can we book you?
Okay, so
I want to talk to you after this.
I'm available. So my handles,
you mentioned you offer therapy to people.
Yes,
right? Okay.
Coaching and therapy. I'm the founder of Emotion City. So if you Google Emotion City, we're there. My handles are also Emotions Doctor everywhere, Instagram, Twitter. My name is Oyinkansola Alabi on LinkedIn. But anything Emotion City and Emotions Doctor, we are here to serve you on emotional intelligence.
We can't thank you enough for this conversation and for stepping into this moment.
My pleasure.
Do you have a YouTube page? Do you have books? Some people have asked.
Yes, so my YouTube page is Oyinkansola Alabi. I have 14 audio products. You can download them on emotioncity.com. And then I also have a personal tribe, which is the EQ tribe. So from emotioncity.com, you can get across to my office and then to join the tribe.
All right, so this is Emotional Intelligence for Professionals Fair Part 1.
Yes.
We're going to have a Part 2 and we'll call you back.
Very well.
Because you're an amazing guest. Thank you so much for granting us this invitation. And
my pleasure.
Special thanks to
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. And HK from Ogba thinks the same, that please can you come again?
Thank you.
This has been Smooth Breakfast. Ayo and Valentine are feeling better now.
I'm not sure I'm feeling better.
And you guys are doing an incredible job. Thank you. I listen to you every morning before I get into the office.
Sorry, People are
Thank
bugging
you.
here.
I listen to both of you every morning, so I was like starstruck when I saw you guys.
Thank you
Oh,
so
stop it, we
much.
like it. This is Smooth Breakfast. My name is Valentine Ohu.
And I'm Ayo Mairo Ese.
Have yourselves a lovely day.
Have yourselves a Merry Christmas. I have someone send me a message. Said she wants your contact details. She was on her way to work. She was listening.
Oh,
She had to
okay.
go to work now, but please, she wants to thank you.
Okay, very well.
She's
Fantastic.
Yemi Adamoleku from
Oh, I know.
Nigeria.
Oh, we need to take a picture.
I know her.
Bye.
We have about 5 friends in common. Maybe all that.